We often think of love as something that's essential for all aspects of life, something that fuels our growth, gives us purpose, and shapes the way we see the world. For a boy, love is not just about romantic relationships. It's about family, friendship, mentorship, and ultimately the kind of emotional support that helps him feel seen and valued. But what happens when that love is absent? How does a boy live without love? Love is essential to human existence. Without love, we lack the emotional foundation needed to thrive. Love influences our happiness, motivation, and overall well-being. Understanding emotional needs, every person has emotional needs. For a boy, lacking love can leave a deep emotional void. It's not just romantic love, but also the love from family, friends, and a sense of belonging. Living without love can lead to emotional isolation. It can make someone feel invisible or insignificant, stunting personal growth and confidence. While external love is critical, the ability to cultivate self-love is equally important. Building self-esteem and learning to value oneself can help a boy navigate through life even when love from others is absent. A boy can find strength and direction by pursuing a purpose or passion. Having something that excites and drives him forward can be an alternative source of fulfillment. Without love, a boy might struggle with future relationships. It's vital to understand how the absence of love shapes one's ability to connect with others in a healthy, loving way. Just because a boy is living without love now doesn't mean it's permanent. Change is possible, and building a strong support system, seeking guidance, and opening up to love can eventually heal the emptiness. We often think of love as something that's essential for all aspects of life, something that fuels our growth, gives us purpose, and shapes the way we see the world. For a boy, love is not just about romantic relationships. It's about family, friendship, mentorship, and ultimately the kind of emotional support that helps him feel seen and valued. But what happens when that love is absent? How does a boy live without love? Living without love is not easy. It can create a void, a space where he feels disconnected from the world. It's not just about the absence of affection. It's the absence of validation, encouragement, and connection. A boy needs love, not just to feel good, but to grow. Without love, he can struggle with self-worth, developing a belief that he's not important or deserving of connection. This is where emotional isolation begins. The longer it lasts, the more the boy withdraws into himself, thinking he's unworthy of love, or that love is something that happens to others, not him. However, here's the truth. While the love from others is crucial, there's something just as important: self-love. A boy can survive and even thrive if he learns to value himself. It's not about waiting for the world to love him, but about discovering the intrinsic value he has within. When you develop self-love, you understand your worth despite the circumstances. This kind of self-love is a powerful tool for resilience. It's what keeps a boy moving forward, even when the world around him feels cold and indifferent. But self-love doesn't come naturally. It's something that requires effort, reflection, and practice. A boy must actively decide to love himself, not based on what others think of him, but on his own understanding of his worth and potential. But there's more. Even without love, a boy can find strength in his purpose. We all need something that drives us, whether it's a passion, a dream, or a calling. When a boy invests himself in something bigger than himself, whether it's a hobby, education, or a cause, it provides fulfillment that can help fill the emotional void. Passion gives him direction and keeps his spirit moving. It also creates opportunities for connection with others who share that passion. However, there's an undeniable truth that living without love takes its toll on relationships. Without experiencing love in healthy ways, a boy may struggle with forming lasting and meaningful relationships in the future. It's difficult to give love when it hasn't been received, and even harder to trust others when the experience of love has been absent. But here's the hopeful part. It doesn't have to stay this way. Just because a boy feels unloved now doesn't mean it's permanent. Healing is possible. By finding people who care, seeking guidance, and becoming open to receiving love, he can start to heal the emotional wounds created by that absence. The key is to believe that love is worth fighting for and that he is worth receiving it. Living without love is not easy, but with resilience, self-love, purpose, and the willingness to open up, a boy can move from emptiness to fulfillment. The journey might be tough, but it's not hopeless. With time, the love that once seemed out of reach can find its way back. Isolation can be a heavy burden, weighing down an individual in ways that are often invisible to the outside world. It is more than just being physically alone. It's the feeling of being disconnected, misunderstood, or overlooked by those around you. This emotional and mental disconnection creates a profound sense of loneliness that can affect a person on multiple levels. Though the experience of isolation is common, it can manifest differently for everyone. Some may feel isolated due to a lack of social connections, while others might feel alone in a room full of people, struggling to find meaningful relationships or even a sense of belonging. The emotional toll of isolation can be severe. For many, it leads to feelings of sadness, hopelessness, and even despair. When you're isolated, you often feel like you're invisible, like no one notices your pain or your struggle. This can create a cycle where the person becomes more withdrawn, leading to further isolation. The absence of emotional connection with others can make a person question their worth, and without the reassurance or support from others, feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt grow. Over time, these negative emotions can deepen, leading to anxiety and depression, conditions often aggravated by a lack of social interaction. Isolation doesn't just impact mental health, it also affects physical well-being. Human beings are social creatures, and our bodies respond to isolation much like they do to stress. When we don't receive the emotional support and social stimulation that we need, our stress levels rise and our immune system weakens. Chronic loneliness has been linked to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, and other serious health conditions. The lack of emotional connection can also affect sleep patterns, making it harder to rest and recover, further exacerbating the negative effects on the body. Essentially, isolation takes a toll not only on our minds, but on our physical health as well. The feeling of being isolated can also distort one's perception of reality. Without social feedback, it's easy to fall into negative thought patterns and believe that your problems are unique or that no one could understand what you're going through. This can lead to a distorted self-image where a person feels less capable or less worthy. However, the truth is, isolation often amplifies our fears and insecurities. The more we pull away from others, the more our inner critics have room to grow. The absence of external perspectives makes it harder to see things objectively, leaving us to navigate the world through our own limited lens. Isolation can also hinder personal growth and development. When we're disconnected from others, we miss out on valuable feedback, experiences, and opportunities that could help us evolve as individuals. Relationships, whether with family, friends, or colleagues, offer perspectives that broaden our worldview and help us learn more about ourselves. Without this input, it's easy to become stagnant, trapped in old habits or patterns. Moreover, being around others encourages accountability and motivation, helping us to strive for more. Isolation strips away these opportunities, making it more difficult to move forward or progress in meaningful ways. Lastly, it's essential to recognize that isolation can sometimes be a choice, but even then it can still be a burden. Many people retreat into isolation as a form of self-protection, seeking relief from the noise and pressures of the world. Yet, this retreat often leads to more pain than peace. While some solitude can be healing, long-term isolation, especially when it's used as a way to avoid emotional vulnerability, often deepens the sense of disconnection. In essence, isolation is a silent burden that affects all aspects of a person's life. It takes a heavy toll on mental health, physical well-being, and personal growth. Despite the belief that isolation might bring relief, it usually leads to more pain, confusion, and dissatisfaction. The key to breaking free from this burden lies in reconnecting, whether with others or with oneself, and understanding that no one truly thrives in isolation. We all need connection to survive and flourish. In conclusion, isolation is a silent yet powerful burden that impacts not only our emotional and mental well-being, but also our physical health and personal growth. The experience of isolation can create a deep sense of loneliness, leading to negative thought patterns, self-doubt, and emotional distress. It can affect our physical health, weakening our immune systems and increasing the risk of cardiovascular diseases. The absence of connection distorts our perception of reality, often magnifying fears and insecurities while hindering our ability to grow and evolve as individuals. Although isolation might seem like a temporary escape or a way to protect ourselves, it often leads to greater harm in the long run. Human beings are social creatures, and connection is essential for our mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Reaching out for support, building relationships, and fostering meaningful connections can help break the cycle of isolation. It is through these connections that we find healing, strength, and the motivation to move forward. Ultimately, overcoming isolation requires us to embrace vulnerability, seek help, and remember that we are not meant to navigate life alone. Connection is key to overcoming the heavy burden of isolation.